Hey fam, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of No Clue, y'all. Y'all, first, before we get this party started, it has been a hellacious day. Can we start that? Oh, my unky boy! Hey, my man! I'm sorry, I got distracted. I got distracted. Y'all know he distracts me. It has been a week, but guys, we're back for another week. This week, we're going to have a great show for you guys. Y'all see, hey, Kay! I miss you so much, Kay. Hey, I miss you. You know I miss you, girl. We got Arteria with us, and she has the baby. Oh, we got Shavea back, y'all. Shavea, like she might be staying with us. She might be in for the long haul. You know, I got my boy DJ with me. How you doing today, DJ?
What up, people?
So today, y'all, you know I'm on the show. Y'all know I'm here.
Let me introduce you. It's the one, the only.
So we're gonna get started with our. Let's check in first. How everybody doing? Let's talk about how everybody doing. How everybody doing?
We here.
I need to know, how was y'all week? Somebody tell me how your week was. Somebody tell me some good news. Somebody tell me you won the lottery. You finna give me like $3 million. No. Okay, we're gonna start with Shavea. Shavea, how was your week, girl? Check in. What's been going on since last time we seen you?
All I know is, the only thing that made my week better is the fact that it's Taco Tuesday. I've had an interesting week. It's a busy one. But yeah, overall pretty good. Me too, Miss K. I was about to say the same thing. Like, I can tell you I won the lottery, but that may not be the truth.
Hey, you won the lottery in your dreams. Well, dreams really do come true. Dr. King has a dream. Y'all give me 1 second. I'm about to switch platforms real quick. 1 second.
Okay. But back to you, Shavea. What was you saying?
I was saying I had a pretty good week. I'm having a pretty good week so far. Just busy, but Taco Tuesday makes everything better. So happy Taco Tuesday. Tacos and margaritas for everybody.
Everybody, yes. Arteria, what's going on? Let's have.
Unfortunately, I won't be having tacos for dinner. My week has been busy. Work, of course. And I got munchkins running around. I got to get ready for homecoming this week, and mother-in-law's birthday weekend is this weekend. It's a lot.
I know, that's what's up. DJ, talk about your week.
Listen, I'm still trying to go back to the weekend club. You hear me? It has been an extended thing. I had a great time in St. Louis this past weekend. It was family weekend, so we had a good time. Not only did we have a good time, we had a good time in the Lord. So, I'm good. I'm here, and we're going to get through it.
Y'all, my week, I traveled this week, so I did a lot of traveling. I had a blast. I went and saw my best friend in Connecticut. Had a blast. Shout out to Jamie and Nicole and the Wilsons. Showed me great hospitality. Then I went to Dallas, and I got to spend some time with my brother, y'all. I haven't seen my brother in 7 years.
Wow.
And I'm about to crack it. I got to meet his wife and his daughter. My niecey Pooh, she was so amazing. We had so much fun. We went and played. We bowled. We shot pool. We did laser tag. I found out I am not 20 years old to be running around a laser tag arena. My body was like, so it has just been amazing. And then y'all know I love trains, so I rode the train. I'm currently in St. Louis, Missouri. Your boy is on a road trip. I rode the train to St. Louis, and Terry, this you'll understand. I was on the train and I was listening, and there was a young man on the train. He had to be about 15, 16 years old. And he was talking to this girl, and he was saying how he was tired of his mom and dad and all their rules. And yeah, I had fun when the Cowboys won that game. Look, y'all know I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. We won. Cowboys turn up. They was buying drinks for everybody. Not that I had a nice glass of water. Okay.
There you go.
But when I was on the train, he was telling this girl that he was tired of his parents' rules and regulations, and he snuck on the train. And whenever they caught him and put him off the train, that's where he was going to live. Y'all, my heart was like, no, you coming home with me, because I can't. Like, my mind went to racing. All I could see was this child. I don't know if y'all been to Texas. At night, it gets cold. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, this baby's going to be on somebody's bridge. The little girl gave him $20 and was like, don't waste it all in one place because you're going to need to eat. Man, my mind was racing. Like, y'all don't understand. And my heart was all over the place. Like, I wanted to get this. I was like, just take my bank card, go like get you a hotel. Like, I was all over the place. But I had someone put me in check and was like, by him being a minor, you can be arrested for kidnapping. And then I told the conductor, and the conductor was like, well, we'll just put him off at the next station. The freak's that going to do? You're just going to put him off? He's a minor. Wow. You're just going to put him off the train. I was just like, so, yeah. Then I had a conversation with my granny, who solidified some things for me. Yeah, y'all know I was on the Amtrak. I was just all over the place. So that's been my week, but I'm glad I get to see y'all again. I miss y'all. And I'm sorry I was late. Fam, the reason we was late is because I'm in Central Time Zone, and I thought I had to hold another hour. But why can't we all just be Eastern? It makes life so much simpler if everybody's on the same time zone. I can't do it.
No. We're not agreeing with you on that. No, you and y'all on that one.
Bro, this is crazy. But I had some Raising Cane's theory. With the Cane's.
I love me some Raising Cane's.
Girl, I went to be some. Ooh, it was like
that was so funny because I'm from Kentucky. We have Raising Cane's all over the place.
And it ain't even all that. It's the sauce that makes it good. No, it's not. It's just the sauce. It's a bland chicken strip without the sauce.
Zaxby's is better. Yes, it is. Zaxby's chicken is
right by Cane's. Until you do right by Cane's.
Yeah, okay.
Your pinky toe gonna hurt.
Not my pinky toe though.
See,
all right, guys. I just can't stop looking at my man. Look at him smiling at me. I miss you so much. All right, y'all. It's time for our favorite segment. It's time for Say What?
Say what?
So, y'all, this week's Say What. So, what I love about the No Clue show is that we all express our opinions, right? And we're very. Come on, Kay.
Right, Kay. Can we take a poll? Can we put in the comments Cane's or Zaxby's?
Cane's.
Come on, let's do this. I like that poll.
Let's do this.
Look it out.
Family, if you watching,
put that poll in the comments.
Come on, family, if you watching, put in the comments Cane's or Zaxby's. Let's do this. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing. Hold on 1 second. Let me help y'all out. Go real quick. Give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. We got 1 Cane's in the group already. Mm-hmm. Hold on, because I did not.
Hey, honey, go vote for Cane's.
You cheating. You cheating.
Listen, vote for that if you only like garlic bread.
You know what, DJ? Don't be a hater all your life.
Let me make sure my wife is tuned in.
Not my whole life.
Hold on, because I'm trying to make sure I go in here and.
Yo, hey Kelly, shout out to my brother. So
Kelly, can you tell Kelly who do you support, Cane's or Zaxby's? Which one is it? Come on, Kelly.
Choose the right team down.
Because Cane's is the best, Kelly. Go and tell them Cane's is the best.
Don't get blocked.
Choose ye this day.
Come on now. You got to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm.
Oh, look, there's another Canes vote.
Really?
Patty.
Come on, Casimir. Come on.
No.
Oh, look who's dominating the board. Look who's dominating.
No.
Canes.
Wow.
Who run the world? Canes. Who run this mother?
Well, technically, it's tied because your vote doesn't count.
Right.
Thanks, hon.
Okay, so if it's Arteria Canes, I'm Canes, K is Canes, Casimir's Canes, that's 4-2. I think we outnumber y'all.
We're going to get at least one more.
We'll revisit this at the end of the show. Bam, there go another Zaxby. Right on, brother.
Come on, Zaxby's. I knew it. I knew I could count
you're just
you.
a hater.
Oh,
it's still 4-3. We'll wait till the end of the show. It's 4-3 right now. So what I love about Say What is we get to say what's on our minds and we tell the truth. Like, right? We don't always agree. So I got 2 men, I got 2 women, and then I have a baby. So this ties right in. I want to talk about the abortion law. What's y'all stance on abortion law in Texas? How y'all feel? Terry saying no.
That's a tricky topic. Only because it's based on the circumstances. And I say that because I've been a part of an abortion. But I chose to go their route because of how it happened. So it's a tricky topic to talk about.
Okay. Faye?
I knew you were going to look at me next. See?
I mean, the reason why, because you ladies actually, like, it's inside of you. Like, it's your body. You know what I'm saying?
I think that people should have a choice. Of course, you know, I can't necessarily say I'm completely pro-life because I agree and I understand that with certain circumstances that it's maybe the best thing that's for you or that child. There's a lot that can happen. I'm trying to watch what I say, but there's a lot that can happen that can lead a person to feel the need to want to abort. Now, is that my personal choice? No, but I have a heart big enough to understand why it's necessary to give people the choice.
Okay. Systems and processes. I'm sorry, DJ.
So I'm also one of those people that I think it's a very touchy subject. I believe that everybody should have, especially women, should have the choice of what options or routes they choose for their body and their circumstances. But I also think that sometimes people don't think about the psychological and the emotional ramifications behind that decision, or even some of the physical things that can happen to their body as a result of that. But I also think, again, it should be their choice. If this is something that you're choosing to do, you know, you have the right to do that. We do, at least I understand, because I do work in, I guess, health education as a general lens. So, you know, there are circumstances in which I absolutely will understand why a woman would make that choice. But again, it's our job just to make sure that we have those complete and comprehensive conversations about what does that mean for you emotionally? What would that mean for you psychologically? What can happen to your body as a result of that? And, you know, and going forward, should you choose to make that option of deciding to carry, how would that impact you? Because that actually is a reality of that as well. So I mean, it's very multi-layered.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my opinion, and then we're gonna open this up because I feel like y'all are skating on thin ice. And on this show, we say, like Chevette was like, "I'm trying to watch what I'm saying." No, say it. So for me, I believe every child is here for a reason. But however, comma space. In the event of a rape or something like that, I do believe that the woman should have the choice because the psychological, as you stated, ramifications of you're carrying around the reminder of what the assault that happened to you. You know what I'm saying? I can see how that.
He really is.
Okay, you better back up off my baby.
I'm about to get him out of here because
no.
He and him so cute. That's how it is. Like,
go back.
I'm sorry. Because so in that situation, I think, you know, she should have that choice. But part of me says no, and here's why. When I was younger, I had a girlfriend, right? Um, and my girlfriend basically stated that we were being grown and she got pregnant. Okay. The first time she got pregnant, it was twins and she had a miscarriage. And so, like, that was hurtful. I'm sure it was hurtful to her, but it was hurtful to me too. Because I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to have two me's. I didn't really think at the time, I didn't know the price of children. Let's go there. Okay. But then, so after the miscarriage, some months later, she ended up pregnant again. And I didn't know about it until her mom called me and was cussing me out and was like, she went through the abortion by herself. Where was you at? You didn't help pay for anything. And at that moment, I felt I should have been given the option because I wanted children. And so part of me feels that if a man and a woman have a baby, if she doesn't want the baby and he does, I think he should have that option because they made the baby together. And I get it. She has to carry it, but she doesn't have to take care of it once it's born. The same way if a man and a woman, if a man gets a woman pregnant and he says, well, I don't want the baby. She says, well, I want to keep it. You see what I'm saying? So I feel like that should be a shared decision. It should be an equal decision. That's not the word I'm looking for. It should be fair on both sides. So if she wants to keep it and he doesn't want it, she gets to keep it. But if he wants to keep it, she doesn't want it, she can abort it. I just feel like there should be a dual decision because they both made the baby together in that situation.
Kudos to your mindset, but everybody's mindset isn't like that. So I applaud you for that mindset because everybody ain't like that.
And I get that, but that's why I said I think there should be conversations because, again, I didn't know she had an abortion until her mom got mad at me and told me. Because I'm anti-abortion unless it's something traumatic, like you guys have said. Then I think it should be okay. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell y'all the notes, the Texas abortion law. I apologize. The reason why I brought this up. So the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, signed into law on Wednesday a measure that will prohibit Texas abortions as early as 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I clicked on it and it went away. 6 weeks before some women even know that they're pregnant, and open the door for almost any private citizen to sue abortion providers and others. So before, because ladies, when I've never been pregnant. When do you find out that you're pregnant, and how many weeks?
That varies.
It just depends. It depends.
So, so it depends on like if you're doing what you're supposed to do, if you're tracking, if you're doing what you're supposed to do. So I have 3 kids. So with my oldest daughter and my youngest, my son, I found out at 2 weeks. And then my middle child, I found out at 4 weeks. So it just depends if it's something that you're actually tracking.
Got you. So they're saying that 6 weeks, you got to have the baby. And again, if it's like you were raped, it was a revenge pregnancy. They're trying to keep you, so they knock you up, some crazy stuff like that. I'm all for your option, but I just think that if it should be a conversation between a man and a woman, because you do have, while there are some deadbeat guys out here, I'm not going to lie and say they're not, they're deadbeat women too, but there are some good guys out there who want to take care of their children. Like if I have a child, my child will be taken care of by any means necessary. And I by that, I don't mean readily government assistance. No offense. If that's what you need to take care of your children, by all means, take care of your children. But for me, my mindset wasn't there. Kelly asked, what happens when they make a baby very young? So again, that's one of those decisions that has to be made. If you are a child, you got something? Go ahead.
Yes. When I feel like, in response to that comment, I feel like, okay, let's just say this world, and we hope this doesn't happen because we know I Ain't All the Way Together was ran by me. Okay. If it were my choice, I feel like there should be some sort of system in place when it comes to abortions in order to assess whether or not a person is eligible instead of just allowing whomever, even though I do agree with choice. Now, I say that because if a person's very young, I feel personally that people like my wife and I, for example, who want to have children, it gives us the opportunity to adopt. There are other options instead of just choosing abortion. Um, I don't know. It's just something I don't agree with unless it's for specific reasons. Like I understand being raped and all of that, but even in being raped, okay, you still do have to deal with the psychological aspects of that once everything is over, because the child had nothing to do necessarily with the rape, if you get what I mean. And I can't imagine if, being a person, who was in that category, being pregnant, even though the situation was messed up, I can't imagine later how I would feel knowing that that was my child at the end of the day. And that's for me personally.
And so that's why I agree with you, because psychologically, so when a person is raped, because a man can be raped too. Unfortunately, only a woman
True.
can get pregnant. But when a woman is raped, that's a traumatic experience, right? And then for me, the baby inside of her will be a reminder. Every time the baby kicks, it's a reminder that I'm carrying my assaultant's child. I'm carrying his seed. Because most women, in my mind, this is my opinion, they see their rapist as an evil person, a mentally deranged person. They're not wrapped too tight. And here I am carrying a remnants of that. So what if my child comes out to be a rapist? And then the mental sometimes can be that the mother has hate toward the child, because let's say the child comes out and it doesn't look like her. Guess who that face reminds me of every time? Because I know my mother wasn't raped by my father, but she reminds me all the time, you look just like your daddy. You see what I'm saying?
It's funny the topic tonight is what it is. I'm trying not to get too much into that because I feel like the answer is exactly what we're talking about in those cases.
A mental thing.
People need to seek help.
And so what I want, Rakia, I didn't we're gonna try this in English. Rakia, I didn't skip over you. She says women may find out as early as 4 weeks, but may not be able to see a doctor until after the 6 weeks. So
True.
you can find out at 4 weeks I'm pregnant, but if you try to go have an abortion, you got to see a doctor first. So now you can't see the doctor until week 7.5. The law states you can't get an abortion. And here's my fear. I'm not sure how true it is, but you know how grandma said they take the clothes hanger and go up in there? Y'all ever heard that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's there are some instances of mostly financial, and lack of resource or access, where there are some back women, backwoods, back alley, uh, midwife esque individuals that will take that route and use unsafe and unsanitary tools to do that, and again will cause some serious damage to that woman's reproductive organs.
It's just like that movie. I can't think of the name of
For
that
color
movie.
girls.
For Color Girls.
I was thinking it too.
But I mean that's a very real thing, especially if you press for cash, you don't have access to,
Yeah.
viable health care, or you're not insured, especially now we know it's such a huge thing to do those things. We also understand that while we have access to health care, and those things, it's a process even to do that, and so for some women and some of those instances, every moment matters and every second counts. And
True.
unfortunately, that's a reality.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think so. Do you guys think that the government should be the one making this decision, or should it be each individual situation, each individual case?
I think it should be a case by case thing.
I do too. But I also feel like, it'd be dope to have some sort of eligibility based on all these scenarios. You know what I mean? Just different requirements, and even like age as well. Like just you being too young and not wanting to tell your mama may not be the best reason, for example, for getting an abortion. And that happens.
Who was that?
My
One of my friends is an educator, and one of her students came to her. She teaches middle school grades, and one of the students came to her and was like, "So, ma'am, I missed my cycle, and I went to the Dollar Tree and purchased a test, and it came back that I'm pregnant. What can we do?" And she said, "I told her, call your mama."
That part.
But so since we're opening up this can of worms, what do you think the parents' position in that? Let's say the children aren't underage. Should the parents face anything for not monitoring their kids or something like that?
Mm.
That's tricky
Dang.
too.
That's very
I would say
tricky.
that's tricky. That's woo.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Because here in the state of Illinois, at age 12, I do not need parental consent to seek any sexual health services. That can be an HIV
Here
test,
either.
STI screen, pregnancy test, access to prenatal care, whatever it is. At age 12. Now, my concern with that though is they're not cognitively developed enough to be able to understand what all of those things mean. But
Yep.
for protective purposes, they don't have to include a parental figure in that, although they are technically a minor. However, the caveat to that though is when they have to undergo major medical things, they can't make that determination on their own, and so it gets very tricky. And then I think about those instances of, well, what happens if it was the stepdad that did this to her, or the stepmother that did this to them? Do you still want to open up that can and have that conversation and bring those individuals into that and cause more trauma? You might not want to do that. So I mean, it
Yeah.
can get very difficult and very tricky very fast.
That's true.
That's like that here in Georgia because I used to work in internal medicine and I used to sit with teens and all these teens came in with all this different stuff, but I wasn't obligated to tell their parents. I didn't have to at all.
So the legal age of consent for sex in the state of Georgia is 16. You can give consent to have sex. However, the caveat to that is your parents can retract that consent.
What?
So if you have a 16-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old boy and they decide we're going to do the nasty and they both gave consent, the parents can come back and say, I retract that consent, and now it becomes statutory rape.
That's crazy to me. And I know somebody personally that happened to, and he's grown now, but he had to end up doing some time because his girlfriend at the time was not technically of age, and the parents pursued him legally, which I hate because if you look at it, it really was two young kids in love with each other, doing what they were doing, thinking they were wrong. And it's something I feel like parents need to leave alone.
I'm attached to somebody that happened to my brother. He's in prison right now.
Oh.
So yeah.
And so the another downside to that, now you're registered as a sex offender.
Right.
So your abilities are severely limited. You can't get student loans.
That's
so you have to pay for
crazy.
college out of pocket. You're not going to get a lot of jobs. You can't live in certain places. It's real hard.
I totally disagree with that because when you have people that are so close in age, let's just keep it real. I said this the other day to my wife. There's not much of a difference from 16 to 18 mentally. Let's just keep it real. You think you're grown when you're 18, but the truth is we still are kids. And nobody takes that into consideration because that's just the illegal age. You know what I mean? So for a parent to be able to make that decision, when we feel like at that age that we big, we're gonna do everything we big and grown enough to do, and we're still in a mental place at that point where we're not mature enough to make those sound decisions. So to lock somebody up for that to me is ridiculous. And I know, like I literally know two people specifically that have gone through that. I think that's unfair. You ruin a person's life. You just ruined that kid's life.
And I think that's a great place to put a pin on it. Take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Systems and processes just be running stuff. What's up, y'all? Shout out to Ricky Z Media. Y'all, she is the bee's knees. I was about to say the SHIT word, but I ain't want to get in trouble. She is the bee's knees. If you have a podcast you're thinking about, if you have a show idea you're thinking about, or if you just want to advertise your business on No Clue, by all means, reach out to her. All right, you guys, you can reach her at her contact information or send us an email, nocluetheshow@gmail.com, and she will definitely get in touch with you guys. All right, y'all ready for the main topic?
Ooh.
Y'all, because this is what we don't talk about in our. I'm gonna be 100. This is what we don't talk about in the Black household.
We don't.
We don't talk about mental health. So let's start with what is mental health. Everybody give your generic answers because we know our systems and processes department is going to give us the medical terminology that I'm gonna have to use my Google. So what is mental health to you guys?
There's a variety of things mental health could be. So I'm gonna wait on the systems and processes.
Yeah, I feel the same because I've already written my answer out. I knew you were gonna ask.
DJ, congratulations to you. You're making us all grow up and do our research before the show. Because we're going to be like, mental health is what I think. That is incorrect. The terminology is.
Right.
No, it's not that. It's, generally, especially in this context, what we think are generally symptoms or things that are associated with it. It's just not the clinical connotation. So I guarantee you, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're considering, it's not wrong. It probably is encompassed somewhere in that definition.
Okay.
So before I do that, just throw me out one thing. When you hear the word mental health, what comes to your mind? What's the first thing you think about?
Depression.
Okay.
Bipolar.
Okay.
Lord, my answers be so deep. Psychological wellness is what I've been thinking about.
and again, psychological wellness is a huge component of that. What Doc and Terry are talking about are specific diagnoses. So that's a further set of that. But ultimately, mental health is a series of functions and processes that includes emotional, psychological, and social well-being at its most basic level. It impacts how we think, how we feel, and how we act. It helps us to determine how we handle stress, how we relate to other people, and what choices we make. Ultimately, that's all that mental health is. So again, we're talking about all of those internal, emotional and psychological parts that make us who we are and how we respond to others.
I'm sorry.
I agree.
You know who Kaylee has replaced? Billy.
I just saw Kay's response. But bills. Bills are stressful, and stress is definitely an impact on our mental health and our well-being. So in that same vein, now we got a basic idea of what it is. Come on, mortgage. She definitely stressed everybody out. What contributes to mental health, or what causes mental health?
Spouses. People who lie on you because they accuse you of trying to take their man.
Whoa. Okay, that was real specific.
Wow.
Arteria?
That was personal.
What? He asked a question.
He just took me out.
Look here, Blue. Don't start with me.
I got to mute.
He called you Blue.
That was rude.
So for me, I think for me, a mental health thing for me would be self-sabotaging.
You just got real deep.
That's a great segue into something we're going to talk about later. Put a pin in that.
Okay.
Oh, I want a pen. Hold on, let me think of something there. I want a pen too.
So your question was what causes mental health?
Or what are some factors that influence your mental
health? For me personally, I struggle with anxiety. I mean, like just the general topic of anxiety. I used to be on medication for it. We can talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a few more, but those are all good things. So ultimately, thank y'all for y'all responses. Y'all just overthought it. So what I'm talking about is factors are like, what are the things that do that, right? So it's simple, right? Biology, genetic chromosomes, right? That can influence or impact your mental health status. And anxiety and depression are forms of those. Yes, I see.
I was gonna say church folk, but
I'm
That's
sorry.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna tap into that in a second. That's a different type of factor, but yes,
No, I did not know that though. Real talk. I did not know your genetics can affect your mental health
yeah,
absolutely. As we
because you
think
don't have
about
any control over your genetics.
correct, and you think about chromosomes that either attach properly or don't attach properly, as well as chemical levels and chemical imbalances in the brain. Different levels cause different events, which trigger different outcomes, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit more further as we talk about some other things specifically. So we talked about the genetic component. We talked about your family history component. So we talked about that it can be inherited and it can be a recessive trait or it can be a dominant trait, depending on that person's history, their background, their experiences, etc. Another one is your personal life experiences or your environment, which is where Chevelle was going when she said church people. That's a different type of thing, but it still is an environmental factor, right? So when I think about that, I think about any traumas that you may have undergone, any history of abuse, anything that may be considered abnormal. And I hate that term, but that's what we have to use in a clinical context. And a trauma is anything that is severely life changes that impacts or influences how you view a situation or you respond to it in a way that you normally would not have. So traumas don't have to always be these big, huge ordeals that we think about. A trauma for a kid could be, walking in and seeing their parents arguing, and it don't necessarily have to be something large or fist fights or verbal or throwing. It could just
yeah,
be that shock that that's not what they're accustomed to. That can be a traumatic experience for somebody. And traumas are one of the number one factors that influence our mental health, our well-being, and how we impact with other people because for some traumas, it causes us to be detached. It causes us to go inside of ourselves. It causes us to withdraw. It can cause social isolation in some instances. So,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a lot of things. So I wanted to start with those very technical parts because it's going to be important to build on them in the conversation, right? So now we know what mental health is. We know what some of the factors are for mental health. What are some warning signs of mental health?
You just
Projecting.
said you just said one, isolation.
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
I said projecting.
Okay.
Hmm.
And what
That's
I
a
mean by projecting is like everything is somebody else's fault but my fault.
Hmm.
Like my
Wow,
actions are not my fault. It's Chevelle's fault that I slapped that girl.
it might
okay.
be.
She is so not supportive of my health.
Listen, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh.
Eroticism, like
Hmm.
yeah,
You
just
went
Interesting
being.
deep,
take.
deep.
That's an interesting take. Okay.
Whoa. Whoa.
Y'all have to y'all know that I was like I was going to school for psychology.
Hmm.
It's stuff
Yeah,
that really interests me, but for
me
real,
too.
I've seen people become very erotic when they don't take care of their mental health.
That is
Yes,
true. They
yes,
do
that can
associate
be
sex with that.
a display of a mental health or chemical imbalance. Yes, but ultimately, what are some of the common ones that we know?
ADHD, because Kay has it.
Not diagnoses. Let's talk about symptoms. Let's talk about
You
symptoms.
showing out today.
Not specific diagnoses. Let's talk about symptoms. If somebody displays some of these things, then what does it look like for you that it's a trigger that they may have some mental health issues? So we talked about
Um,
isolation. That's absolutely a great one.
What about like anger or like lashing out?
Uncontrolled or unrestricted emotional response. Yes.
Eating.
Yes. Too much or too little, and not necessarily that's justified by dieting or weight loss. Yes,
Dang, I
that's
need
a really good
counseling.
one.
We're gonna talk about that too.
Yes,
Compulsiveness.
compulsions are huge, but those are physical
Yeah,
displays. But yes, absolutely. What else?
She
Come
heard
on,
me
y'all.
saying it and she typed it.
We talked about it. Pulling away from your usual activities, right? That isolation piece. Having continuous low energy levels or always feeling
true.
fatigued.
Hmm.
Um, feeling numb,
Mm-hmm.
feeling like nothing matters. Unexplained body aches or headaches that you don't know where they come from, but they're a constant, continuous thing.
wow.
Yes, impulsiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The inability to make sound decisions and acting on response. Yes, that absolutely is one. What else, go? Smoking,
Mhm.
drinking, or doing illicit drugs. If they
True.
don't have a history of doing that and overindulging, that could be a sign of mental health. Mood,
Excessive spending.
yes, mood swings, right? What if I'm cool right now and I just come out of bag on y'all for no reason, that could be a sign of a mental health issue or
Yeah.
mental health disparity, right? Because there's no emotional regulation. So
Okay.
again, like I said, this all the stuff we know. I ain't trying to be deep on us, but this also, yes, binging. Binging is huge. Y'all know
Mm.
what binging is, right?
Mhm.
My, well, I know about binge shopping, just like overdoing something, right?
So what binging is, you do it to the extreme, right? So
Right.
at one low point, and then everything is at the super, super extreme, and then you have to stop and come down, and then you do it all over again.
Mm.
I know y'all. We gon' It ain't supposed to get
Yeesh.
this deep, but we gonna go there. We gonna go there.
Woo.
Ooh.
No, because so real talk, being transparent, every symptom you just named is what I embraced, I encountered when my grandmother passed. Literally
Pin
every.
that. Pin that. We're gonna come back to that because
I
that's
got a
important.
pen.
That's important. Last two things that I want to talk about symptomized wise is, if you hear voices or see things that are
Mm.
telling you to do things that are not present, right? We often call those delusions, right?
Ooh, yes, delusional.
And the most important one, especially for me in my profession, is thinking about or committing harm to yourself or others.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mandated to report.
Absolutely, we are mandated to report on this line.
Actually, all four of us are mandated to report.
Yeah, that's what I said. We are mandated to report. Yes. So when we think about all of those things comprehensively, right, we can all identify something in ourselves that may fit in that category, or somebody we know that may have displayed some of those things, right? But what's the difference between somebody going through a rough patch and actually displaying a mental health condition? How do we know?
They may do things like threaten suicide.
Hmm.
So which
I've
side is that? They're going through a rough patch, or they for real, real?
Just
So,
asking, how would you know?
Oh, how would you know? Okay.
but in that specific example, right, if they're going through a rough patch and they considered it, that could be a sign of some emotional,
true.
mental health, instabilities of things. But if they have a clear and concise plan as to how they're going to do that, we
Yes.
absolutely know that's an immediate sign that there's something is going
Yeah.
on.
That's when it's real. If they are a cutter, if the cuts are this way, then it says cry for help. If it's this way, then it's actual attempt suicide.
Yeah, and again, even with the plan and even just having that conversation, some people may say that and not mean it. They could just be saying it because, that's what came out or that was how they expressed what they meant. But again, when you get that intentionality behind that, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
So we're going to transition from that into one of the most common mental health conditions that we think about, depression. So, what is depression?
Mm.
Because we hear this talk about all the time, and I know, we say that's a white people thing.
No, it
We've
ain't.
heard that.
No, it
We've
ain't
heard
either.
that, but I know depression is real, but we've heard that many, many times in our communities. So, what is depression?
Ooh, this topic is heavy.
It is.
And I'm scaling back. I'm just trying to get us to get a little bit because we're gonna come back to this mental health thing when we get a professional to be able to give us a little bit more insight. I'm just giving y'all my educational, my experiential components to this, so we can start the conversation and help somebody else.
For me, depression is when you just don't care. You don't want to be involved. You don't want to do nothing. Life has no meaning. Life has no purpose. You're just at your lowest of lows.
Absolutely, great job identifying lots of symptoms of depression.
Um, you can be moody. I know that. I've experienced myself.
Hmm.
I know when I was depressed, I really wasn't eating or sleeping.
Great. Again,
Um,
both great symptoms of
I
depression.
had no. It's funny how you can have no. You want to. You do feel like you're purposeless.
Great. Another huge important component of depression is purposelessness. See, I told y'all know this stuff. Just don't overthink it.
So, in a nutshell, would depression just be the lowering of a person's mood or mindset?
Not necessarily, because the important part for clinical depression is that it has to last 2 weeks or more. So it can't just be
Did not
something.
know that.
I
It
didn't
cannot
either.
just be something that happens and it's like this is what happened. It has to be consistently occurring for 2 weeks or more for it to be considered a clinical depression. And it must also represent a drastic change in previous level of functioning or cause an inability.
Hmm.
If it does not do those things, it is not considered a clinical diagnosis of depression.
I feel like a
Wow.
kid in school.
I do too. I need to take notes.
I didn't know that. So
Hold on. So you mean to tell me I gotta feel for 2 weeks?
It must be at least 2 weeks in duration.
Wow.
right, so I gotta right.
I
Okay,
can
I gotta
relate,
sit in
Kelly.
this black hole
Yes,
for two
yes.
weeks before y'all.
No, what will happen is it will be identified that you are experiencing the symptoms, right? And it'll be documented that you are doing it. But before a clinical diagnosis is attached to you that is clinical depression, they must have been going on for 2 weeks consecutively. And like I said, that important part, that and it must cause a change in the previous level of functioning or cause some type of inability. So,
Wow.
your lack of sleep or, lack of not like, most people are like, I don't want to get out the bed, right? But you're not wanting to get out of bed must cause some impairment. Be that is, you ain't been to work, you're not going to school, you're not doing those things. So that would impede your typical daily activities of going to work, presenting on time, being conscious, being in the moment. You can't do those things if you're in the bed for 2 weeks.
Oh, good
Right.
True.
And so
question,
that's
Kay.
that's that
That's a great
correlation.
question, Kelly.
Is there really such thing as a function? Absolutely. Many people function with depression. And unfortunately,
Oh,
in America, we are probably the highest recipients of that. A lot of us experience symptoms of what can be considered depressive or depressive symptoms. And we go about our day to day like nothing is wrong.
So what most people do is self-medicate. And by medicate, that could be alcohol, illegal narcotics, food, sex, to help cover up depression.
Yes and no. So most of those things are absolutely correct. When you start to add that sexual component, that's a different layer. And
Can you
it's not that
explain
it's
that?
necessarily it's not that it's necessarily wrong, right? Because when most people experience depression, there's a loss of something, right? There's something that is taken away, or something that has happened, or something that has transpired to cause them to want to isolate and withdraw, whether it's withdraw from family, friends, food, whatever. And back to my part about that inability to function. Yes, you can still have sex and be depressed. I'm not saying that that's not possible. It absolutely is. But again, we would have to look at that through that lens of binging, right? Is this something that you just started kicking into overdrive, or is it something that you normally do? And how
Got it.
is doing that impeding your regular function and your regular abilities? If the two don't correlate by clinical terms, we can't constitute it as depression.
mm, wow.
People laugh at me when I say that. That's why I asked. Thank y'all for making me feel like, listen, if more people were honest about what we experienced and what we went through and the things that we experienced, I think this world would be a whole better place because we would be more
Yes.
transparent in what's going on instead of always trying to act like we have all of the answers and nothing is going on. So thank you for
You're
your
right.
transparency, Kay. I see you, Doc. What's on your mind?
So two things. So first one, if a person, the reason why I said sex, because some people have, like when they're going through a state of depression, they would just throw their bodies to anybody because it takes their mind off of what's going on. Because one thing we learned was, because we took it there in school, but I'm not taking it there on the show because it applies to both. So you know how you meet people who's like, oh, I need somebody with 13, 14 inches. I need somebody who's,
Mhm.
thick as my arm. So people who are seeking those sizes
Who
aren't
said
seeking
it?
sizes for the pleasure. They're seeking the pain that causes, because that pain takes away the other hurt they're feeling.
Yes, in theory, yes.
So that's why I brought that up. And my second point is, Kay, you're not normal. And that's why I love you. Because you are a circle in a squares world. And I love that. That's what we need. We need more circles in this square world.
You are
Yeah,
such a
I
jerk.
see a hand raised. Our producer raised the hand. Is it something you want to share, Ricky?
So,
Okay.
oh, she's gonna make a camera appearance.
Oh,
I disagree.
agreeing. Amen. All right.
No, I love it. So I love it when Kia just pops up like, nope,
Right.
I'm the only one.
So, symptoms of depression, of course, we talked about feeling sad or having depressed mood, loss of interest or pleasure in activities that were once enjoyable, changes in appetite, weight loss or weight gain, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, loss of energy or feeling fatigued, an inability to sit still or pacing, feeling worthless or guilty, difficulty thinking or concentrating or making decisions, and again, thoughts of death or suicide. Yeah.
Terry.
So you just read all of that off, and I hear a lot of losses. So loss of this,
hmm
loss of that. But
hmm
can depression be, I want to do more of this to keep myself busy?
That's
Oh,
that's being manic. That's a difference.
Okay.
So that's being in a state of manic or mania, right? So when you think about that, that's when you're going, right? And then it's just this quick burst, and then it's gone. And then you're going, and it's gone. Most times we see that in a lot more intensive diagnoses. So like even when you think about people with bipolar disorder, they have those manic spurts where it's real highs, but it's real low lows. And then it's back to this real high to go back to a low. So that's when you're in a state of mania or in a manic state. That's something, it can be associated with it, but from a clinical lens, it's looked at differently. Because as we very clearly identified, depressive symptoms are more low symptoms. It's that I don't want to do these things, not necessarily that I'm overindulgent in these things.
Makes sense.
mm,
Makes sense.
it's good to know.
The more you know.
Hmm.
Our
I'm not going to
producer
share
saying
that. I wasn't going to share that because I don't know if she wanted to share
Right. That was private,
that.
and he was just about to read.
But shout out to Ricky Z.
She said that's fine.
some people are initially diagnosed with depression or anxiety, but they later find out that it stems from having ADHD the last couple of years.
True.
Yeah. So let's talk about some stats behind it. 1 in 6 people will experience depression in their lifetime. At the larger population, that's not very vast, right? It's one in
Mm.
six people.
So, has anybody on the panel, if you want to share, experienced depression? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have.
Mhm.
Like I was
Yeah.
telling DJ, when my grandmother passed, my world was
Mhm.
done. Like there was no reason for me to be here anymore. And I'll be honest with you guys, I've attempted suicide 3 times in my life. Um, the first time, and the first time I did it, and I don't mind sharing with y'all because I told my therapist this, and my therapist told me my testimony would save somebody.
Mhm.
But the first time, I had a father who A's were acceptable, B's were a beating, C's was don't come home, D's was we didn't have D's, and F was fly far away. That's how I was raised. I was an A student because that was all that was mandated. I got a B in the class, and I was made to feel like I was dumber than dumb. Like I was gonna be homeless on the street, never gonna find a job. And I went in my grandmother's cabinet. And if y'all know old people, they never keep pills in the original container that they came in.
Mhm.
So I opened the bottle. It was a white bottle, and I took like 10, 15 pills. They were laxatives. Oh my God. You're laughing at me.
Uh,
I'm
oh,
glad you found humor in my
that was the Lord,
no,
baby. He was like,
That
"Oh,
wasn't
I'm
not
gonna
nobody
tell
but
laxatives,
you."
God.
but it was laxatives. And so I went and laid in my bed waiting to die. And
You died all right.
Right.
woo, so, I can laugh at it now, but back then, like I wanted to die. The second time I watched TV, and you know how you take the radio and you push it into the tub, you're supposed to electrocute yourself to death. Okay, so my radio was battery operated, and it didn't work.
Okay, go on mute.
Bye.
I was young, people. Shit.
Oh my God.
This is why I have a therapist. Shout out to my therapist, because you made me feel good about this.
Amen.
And then the
I'm
last time when my grandmother passed, many of you don't know, I attempted suicide when my grandmother passed because I didn't want to be here anymore.
terrible.
I could not see life without my rock, my support, my one person who I could always go to, who never judged me, who was always there to help me, who was always there for me. And I just didn't see a reason.
Well, she sent you an angel.
She,
Mm-hmm.
she did. She did.
Anybody?
Yep.
So
Continue.
thank you for being transparent. So, because that's important, and we got to be more intentional about our stories and our experiences, especially in our communities, right? Because we don't have
Yes.
these conversations.
We love you, Doc.
You do. We love you. We got
He
Thank
you.
you
knew
for
what I
sharing your
meant when I
story.
said that. He knew what I meant when I said that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to share in the interim?
Shit. I tried to commit suicide with two kids. My my youngest was a couple months old and my oldest was 3. And I lost 60 pounds. So it means I wasn't eating, I didn't care. And I took I'm not a heavy I don't like taking medications, but I was at a really, really low place in my life and I just didn't have anybody, no support, no nothing. And I was just like, I don't want to be here no more. Somebody will take care of them. I attempted it, but it didn't work.
Right.
Here I am today.
And what people don't realize is sometimes the failure is even worse than actually the act.
Mm-hmm.
Listen,
Because it's like, damn, I can't even kill myself right.
And there's an entire
that's
field of
real.
psychology. No, it's an entire field of psychology that's dedicated specifically to that part.
Yeah, I actually attempted. I have a crazy story myself. It's a little bit of a touchy subject for me because a few years ago I actually lost my god brother to suicide. Yeah. So that's very difficult for me to talk about, but personally, I considered suicide going through a divorce, and I also attempted suicide. I want to say back in 2012ish, and I was living on my own, and I was about to take the rest of the half of the pills I'd already taken because I just don't like taking pills. And I get a knock on my door. I called no one because the one thing I learned about suicide is if I tell y'all about it, y'all gonna try to
You
come
know,
help
do.
me.
Hmm.
So my plan was I'm not telling nobody because I don't need y'all to come help. Well, I got a knock on the door and it was a friend. She's like, something just don't sound right about you today. And she literally saved my life because I didn't tell anyone. And that could have been the end of me. All because I went through depression over being accepted due to my sexuality,
Hmm.
being accepted as a somebody that loved the Lord. It was a crazy situation, but I've gone through it. But the worst moment of depression I've ever had, honestly, is going through a divorce. That it was my lowest of low. It's a level of grief that I wouldn't wish on anybody. Um, I felt guilty for failing at marriage.
Hmm.
So I literally sat in a dark room for, I mean, close to a month because a good friend of mine was with me and she left out of town for work and I was alone. So no one knew.
Hmm.
And I literally almost died during that time because I refused to go to the hospital. And I found out that I was in kidney failure later because I wasn't eating, drinking, nothing.
Hmm. And thank y'all for being transparent. Somebody else is going to be blessed and honored because of this. So, in that same vein, according to statistics, signs or symptoms of depression first appear during the late teens to mid 20s. Why do y'all think that is?
I think that's when you're finding yourself.
That's when you're transitioning. Your life is
That's the
transitioning.
puberty. That's when your testicles drop and you start having wet dreams and you start becoming yourself. Well, I was just talking about for me. I'm a man.
But what else? What else happens during that particular time in our lives?
Your life is transitioning. You're more coming more so into adulthood that some of us are not ready for, but we rush into. So you're transitioning one phase of your life to the next.
But what else from? I guess that's anatomy and physiology. So, from another standpoint, though, right? Our brains are still developing, right? And we know that they're not fully developed at that age. They have just moved it to the next level, right? So, how we think, how we perceive things, how we interact with things, that has now started to shift. And so now we look at things differently than we did before, too, right? Because of all those things you said. Because now my hormones are raging. So now I'm looking at things through this lens. Now I'm having to be more responsible for certain things. So that's additional stressors that I may not have had before. Right.
I was gonna say you become hormonal because your hormones start kicking in.
Yeah, it definitely is part of that. But ultimately, during that phase, that's when we take on more responsibilities, right? And we start to be less dependent on our parents in theory, right? And we start to do those things that establish us to be ourselves. So we have to then, now we paying bills, and now we're starting to work, and now we're starting to do, all of those grown things that cause stressors. Stressors can trigger trauma.
We're doing those things that we didn't sign up for.
Oh no, we did, but we didn't know that they sucked until we started having to do
them. Right. I wish I could go back.
No, I didn't sign up for adulting. My parents gave birth to me. I signed up to be a child of my parents. I didn't sign up to be an adult.
Yeah. And the last statistic as it relates to depression is women are more likely than men to experience depression.
Really?
More likely. That doesn't mean that it's true. It just says they are more likely.
You know what? Would postpartum be considered part of depression?
The last part of that is depression.
It is postpartum. Wow. Is my hair blonde tonight? Jesus. So I could see that because I've been around a lot of women who've had babies and I've never seen someone go through postpartum, but I watched 911 and the mother on 911 she went through it real bad. Like I didn't know it got that bad. So I could see that. And then women are very, 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 very high maintenance. So I could definitely see that.
Well, that was aggressive.
Right.
Well, no. So let me tell you where that comes. Let me tell you where that comes from. A certain person who watches our show, who I've come to love and adore, we had a conversation with several people about who is more complex, men or women, and all the women agreed with her that men were more complex. And
hey, I think he talking about you.
I am talking about Kay. And so, but now, thank you, systems and processes just proved my point that women are the crazier of the two sexes.
I didn't say that. What I said was women, according to statistics, women are more likely to experience depression than men.
So
I can understand that though. I mean, we have cycles and that time of the month, for example, we can be very moody and even kind of get a little down depending on our circumstances at the time. It makes sense to me.
And also just through a biological track, women mature faster than men.
Absolutely.
So emotionally and mentally, they mature faster than the male.
Now
so
we
they're
got one.
Experiencing those things. They are. I mean, so they're experiencing those things a lot sooner, and for long, and they typically outlive the men. So not only are they experiencing them sooner, they're experiencing them more longer over more consistent periods of the lifespan.
Miss Hayes, write that back. Write that all down and make sure you run that back.
Miss Hayes says women are more likely to experience depression, but those between 18 to 25 that have two or more races experience depression more.
Absolutely.
So system and processes number 2.
You got a system now?
AKA my
I
wife.
live for it. Come on with the facts and the figures.
You know what? I want to break that down a little bit more. I would just say people who have two or more races because I consider myself African American, straight up. I love being black, even though I'm actually legit mixed, right? I have a lot of in me, but I'm one of the few people who be like, I'm black, period, point. I'm blackity black. All right. But you have a situation where the white side don't accept you because you're dark skinned, but then the black side don't accept you because you're light skinned. So you belong to no one. You belong to the void. Because I told y'all in my family, my brother and myself are the lightest things. So they say, "Oh, the house niggers." Excuse the N word, but that's what we were called. And so, but then I'm the regular N word to the other ones. They wouldn't say that though. They're not gonna say that. But you feel what I'm saying? So it's like you don't know where you don't belong anywhere. You're by yourself. Who do you run to?
And then you also have to account for, again, for the one female lens, right? Women operate in a patriarchal world where everything is designed for them
Yes.
by design, right? Not to be successful, not to be the
Mhm.
heads of their households, not to be educated. That they are
Mhm.
structured and groomed that you're supposed to be at home, you're supposed to have these babies, you're supposed to continue on the legacy, and then you let me do everything else that accompanies any level of status or educational or any type of personality, even in that sense, right? And y'all can speak on this 'cause I don't know for sure, but what I've observed in some of these things is even when young girls are younger, they're conditioned that it's not about you. You feel what he feels. You respond how he responds. They're not allowed to express their autonomy. Thankfully, we've evolved in some instances towards that. But there are still a lot of people that truly believe that.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah. So true.
I'm glad to say I'm not one of them because we got a female vice president. So therefore, if she can do what I do, you can do what I do. The only thing you can do that I cannot do is give birth. And technically speaking, I can experience it. Just ain't that gonna come out.
See,
Yeah.
number 2.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
We talked about that earlier in the segment, Miss Hayes. You wasn't present,
Don't
but
do that.
our system and
Okay.
processes department did go over that with us. We actually broke that down in piece by piece. So
See,
we
number
applaud
2.
you for defining the
Don't
check.
leave my
Number
baby
2.
alone.
I'm with it. I love somebody else that thinks the way that I do and that can break it down. So I'm all for it. Shout out to you, Brittany. I'm with it. So
You
last
better
thing
represent, baby.
before we kind of loop back around into some things, let's talk about African Americans and depression. What does that look like? And I ain't even talking about it from a clinical context. Let's talk
None
about what that
existent.
looks like from our experience.
None
You just need a
existent.
nap.
I was gonna say the first word that came to my mouth is bondage because a lot of us don't even know because
Hmm.
we're not. A lot of us aren't taught, this kind of thing. You see, we're surprised at some of the stuff you're saying now because in our culture, I feel like it's just not talked about. We don't deal with mental health in general.
Hmm. Absolutely. And what is it? Yep, that's right. There you go, Kay. That's definitely one of the things I wanted to talk about.
I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to be the one to always bring up religion. But
I didn't either.
there's a
Yes.
problem: systematic racism, colorism, and slave mentality that contribute to depression.
Yes. That is absolutely correct. And those are absolutely accurate for the population the target population that we're talking about, right? Because those are all byproducts of how we respond and why we respond the way that we do.
You're right.
Okay.
And yes, Kay, you're right. That's what we get. You just need to pray about it.
But that's what we always say. So hear me clearly. As a pastor, as a theologian, as someone who believes in the higher being, I do believe in the power and I know the power of prayer. Okay. However, comma space. Sometimes you need to go lay on somebody's couch and talk
Come
to
on.
somebody. Or you need to they do Zoom now. You need to Zoom and talk to somebody because I believe that God gives us the knowledge to help those. So God gave the therapist the knowledge to help you in the here and now. You can still pray, but you still need to get help because sometimes your mental health is a chemical imbalance inside your head. And so you need
Yes.
medicines to balance it out. Yes, I believe God can do it because God has done it before. However, he's given power to those who can give you that pill that helps him a little bit more. I believe God can get he doesn't need help, but he does give help.
I believe when people say that God's making a way, I be trying not to be churchy all the time, y'all, I promise. I believe that people say God's making a way that we also have to think of the doctors, And therapists as God making a way. That's the way that he made for us to be able to get the help that we need. He making a way. He making a way for you to go on pay that copay. Praise the Lord.
Huh?
Today is two. We should have had Miss Hayes as a guest.
I'm with it. I love
between
it.
Miss
All the
Hayes
stuff-
and
That's
DJ.
all the stuff I was gonna say. So I'm with it. I love it.
Between Miss Hayes and DJ, between them two, we ain't gotta be. Wait a minute, Miss Hayes, shouldn't you be at work?
Do not do that.
Don't worry, she's gonna send me a text message. Shouldn't you
You
be
know
on
she
vacation?
So what else here? What else y'all seen or heard that we talk about as we talk about us and mental health specifically?
So part of mental health would be therapy. Am I correct?
That is a method to induce and contribute mental health. Yeah.
Gotcha. So can we talk about therapy?
Not right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's stay on this target.
He said what else, but
because
that's how we're going to end. So we're not jumping to the end yet.
I said it's non-existent because we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's non-existent.
Okay.
We don't talk about it. We don't acknowledge it. We just don't nothing to it.
So let's talk about Uncle Pete and Mama Ray and them that when you was kids, you went over to your grandma's house. Yeah, I'm just giving some names randomly. And they say, don't leave them with Uncle Pete. Or, they in the back of the house. It's like, don't go up there by yourself. Right? And so we know that there is something going on with these people, but nobody ever tells you what it is. Right? Or let's talk about how, there were all of these, well, not all, but there were facilities and treatment centers in our communities to help people do that was treated as outpatient activities, but now they no longer exist. Right? And as a result, what do we see? We see a correlation of higher rates of poverty. We see a correlation of higher rates of crime. We see a current rate of higher rates of homelessness in our communities. But when you contrast that to non-melanated persons, it's a completely different response. And even when we look at it through a legal lens, right? When a non-melanated person uses a mental health condition as a justification, there's a lesser sentence.
Ooh. Say that one more again.
Yeah.
Improper English, I know.
When people that are not of an African American experience commit serious crimes or misdemeanors or felonies, when they use the mental health or a mental psychotic break as a defense, if they still are sentenced, they receive lesser sentences, right? And when they are sentenced, not only is it a lesser service, it's a lesser penalty behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So even in this thing, to go back to what Brittany was saying, which is what I was getting to, even mental health is used in a systemic fashion to keep us ostracized and marginalized. But again, on the other foot, though, we are one of the only communities that refuses to have transparent conversations about our mental health because we're constantly impacted by things that trigger traumas in us, whether it's generational, environmental. How many of our kids live in neighborhoods or communities where they know in school to duck when guns are shooting? You don't see that in other communities, but it's part of the experience, and we act like it's okay, and that's not normal.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Number 2.
You know what?
Yes.
Brittany and DJ, y'all have this conversation. Go ahead.
Yes, that's a great point. African Americans use religion to address mental health within the home. Also, the statement, what happens in this house stays in this house. Yes.
Yes.
Extreme mental health crisis.
Yes.
So the first half of that, I would say we use African Americans, I'm sorry, people of African American experience utilize religion for everything. I don't care what it is. They justify everything with the Bible. And that's a problem for me. Because you can't go from victim to victor if you keep the victim mentality.
Come on, be preaching.
That's the problem. Like a lot, and then what happens in this house stays in this house. That's the problem with this house, is because this house is broken. In the famous words of what's her name? I can't think of her name. Doggone it, she's one of them sisters. There's a leak in this old building, and my soul has got to move. Yeah, look, the Pace sisters. I think that's the problem with our community. Hear me again. I love the Bible. The Bible is a great book to read. It's a great book to reference. However, the Bible is not literal. The Bible is not written in stone. The Bible is written in parables. We have to stop using that to justify when we really need help. Stop telling people who are having mental breaks, because we have mental breaks and we need to go get mental help. And the Bible cannot give us the physical help that we may need in that time and in that moment.
This is the thing is, though, the problem is people have used religion a lot of times to control the mind of people. So they're not going to deal with the depression and things of that nature because they, quite frankly, not trying to be funny, but don't care to a certain extent. That's just real.
Well, it cares when it matters to communities that people care about.
That's it.
And that's the best way I can say that without going too far, because that's a whole nother set of
It
conversations.
is.
Um,
But
so
that goes back to what Brittany was saying about it's systematic, because during the time of slavery, all we had to lean on was our faith.
Right.
And I get it. That worked for them, leaning on like if you watch the movie Harriet, with
love
Harriet
that
Tubman,
movie.
when she was walking across the river, what did she do before she stepped into the water? She prayed. And she trusted God to guide her through that river. So back in those times, they trusted and believed in the Bible as the sound doctrine for everything. However, as time has progressed and as we've grown through over time, we have to progress in our thinking and our approaches to things. Our theological outlook has to change. I can't think tonight. My mind just. I'm sorry. Between
that's good. That means you got to stop so I can transition to the last part so we can close out.
I'm going to Chicago.
So, if we're aware of those things and we do that, what do you do? How do you get help? If you want it, where do you go to get help?
I mean, if it's a suicidal thing, we all know there is a hotline for that.
Mm-hmm.
You can also literally Google therapists in your area.
Mm-hmm.
And you can and they tend to help, as far as insurance. If you don't have insurance, there are other ways to really get help. I think a therapist is a great thing to have. I love my therapist.
I love my therapist too. And I'll be meeting with him tomorrow because it was a holiday yesterday. What else? What else can you do to get help?
So there is different websites you can go to. If you don't have access to the internet, there's a crisis hotline you can call. It's 1-888-872-1917. They're open 24 hours a day. Most states have local crisis hotlines you can call. What I also recommend, if you don't want to go to a stranger, find a friend or somebody who you can confide in, and that person can reach out to those avenues to get help. If you live in the state of Georgia, we do have the Georgia Crisis Center that you can reach out to. If you're in DeKalb County, we have the DeKalb Crisis Center that you can actually go check yourself in for a mental. They check you. So I would just say reach out and find ways to get help.
So shout out to Brittany, because I was getting to this point too. According to APA, the African American community is either underdiagnosed or overly diagnosed. I argue it's the latter of that, but that's just me. They are less likely to receive proper medications and treatment compared to their counterparts. Also, African Americans are 7.3 times more likely to live in high poverty neighborhoods and have limited access to mental health services. So, all of the things that I talked about earlier, right? We talked about environment and how it impacts mental health and how it precipitates and can sometimes predetermine mental health outcomes. So, shout out to you. We're going to have to talk, Brittany, because you talking my language. I live for it.
That's her.
It is.
Try working.
This is what she does. I mean, it's school for her. So I have a quote. Can I share?
Absolutely.
Did you ask the question? So it's an answer for it. But I saw a quote that said, "Start prioritizing, Lord, your mental health instead of adjusting to toxic spaces." We have to start making our mental health a priority. I feel like that is something we can do instead of just adjusting to toxic, spaces or toxic relationships, churches, whatever the case may be.
No, and that's good. Put it at the forefront and being very transparent about it. And I always say this, and y'all may have heard me say this in some previous shows, that mental health is a component of holistic health. We just start getting to a space where we care about our bodies, why we can't care about
True.
our minds. There's also something called psychosomatic, right? Which means what I think impacts what I feel and how my body interacts. Which is
Mm,
why, if you think you have a headache after so long, you will. If you
Hmm.
think that you
that-
feel so long about some things after so long, you will. It impacts the better. The mind impacts the body.
That's how I found my therapist. Therapy for Black girls.
Me too.
I didn't find my therapist like that. I'm
I
not a
bet.
black girl.
But what else? What else can you do to get help? So we talked about some really, really great options. But what else? So if I don't know nothing else and I just needed to start a place, what can I do? So you said talk to a friend that you trust and talk to them about it. We talked about some really great resources.
You
But
could
what
go
else?
to your church.
You can go to clergy. Yes, yes, you can. That absolutely is an option if they are versed enough and transparent to have that conversation with you. But yes, you should be able to go to clergy.
I'm glad you cleaned that up.
You
Should be. Yeah.
should be able to
I was,
go.
whoop. I was like,
And
whoop.
I was going to add to that, and clergy should know that one, they're bound by confidentiality
Melanie.
clauses federally, not just locally, federally. And if they can't help you, they are mandated to refer you to someone who can get you help. If you're a true clergyman or woman.
Yes. If you are employed, EAP programs, right? They
Yep.
are also free and confidential to kind of get you started or get you on the path to be able to address some of those things. Again, which is a resource that, well, if you are employed, will not cost you any money and that you have access to that's highly underutilized. Except now because of COVID, we've seen a surge of people actually utilizing EAP programs more than ever before, which is a really dope thing, but unfortunate, but the circumstances that caused it. Um, Support groups, right? If you are that outgoing and you're that transparent, you can try to reach out to support groups or have other conversations with people who, or building networks in general with other people that may be experiencing something similar. Because I don't want to go through
Yeah.
that route of saying that they are the same because they absolutely are not, because that's your individualized experience. But people who are going through similar experiences, you can build peer networks and support networks to support each other during those things.
There are apps as well that are helpful.
Yep.
I use some of them, like there's Calm. There's a few. Um, a couple like I Am, which is kind of an affirmation type of app that people use a lot of times just if you're kind of feeling down.
Hmm.
My brother said some THC will help.
Well,
Who said that?
My
Well,
brother.
you know, yes,
well,
and well, we ain't gonna touch on that, but yes, I can see that.
stay in,
Also,
school, kids don't do drugs.
huh? And
Who's,
also,
who said that?
Casimir said THC.
your
Your husband.
husband.
Let me screenshot that so I can come get my baby.
Also, lastly, before we wrap up with our final thoughts, there's also a help hotline through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. Their number is, what is that hotline number? Hold on, I run it. Oh, 1-800-662-HELP. So again, that's 1-800-662-HELP. It is a confidential 24/7, 365 hotline that you can call for treatment and referral information if you are experiencing or believe you're experiencing mental health and or substance use. Notice I didn't say substance abuse. I said substance use disorders or, any type of thing. So again, this is another great resource to be able to help you through this SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So we gave y'all some resources. So with all of that, y'all, let's wrap up for these final thoughts and let's close out this deep night.
Ooh, it's deep,
Lord.
deep,
Woo.
deep, deep,
30 seconds each. Ready, set,
deep,
go.
deep.
I'm
I don't have
last.
none.
I'm last.
My final thought would be simply this: go from victim to victor. Go from change your mentality in that thought process, because you can be victorious, but if you have a victim mentality, you're not really victorious. You're still living in that bondage. So set yourself free. If you need help, reach out to somebody and get help. nocluetheshow@gmail.com. We're always here. We will connect you with the people who can help you get to what you need to get.
Arteria.
Why y'all keep putting me
I
on
just
this?
went who I saw. I'm sorry.
Jeez. No, this was tough, y'all. If y'all really knew me right now, this was tough.
Mm-hmm.
Really tough. It's okay to acknowledge if you're going through anything, and it's okay to step out and get the help.
Right. Shavaya.
Or mental health to be ashamed of. Um, and I think everybody needs to understand that in hands that says it all the time, do the work. And I agree with her. So to do the work, get help. Look into those resources, but don't isolate.
Great point. And my final thoughts for this is let's normalize denormalizing what's normal. And what I mean by that is let's stop with this thing that so and so is not normal, or that they do something that's weird, or that they're doing something that's strange. Oftentimes, those are signs of help, or there are signs that something is going on with that person. Let's normalize looking into that instead of normalizing that there's something is wrong with this person. And maybe, just maybe, that will give them the strength that they need to seek help or to ask questions to get access to help.
You said normalize to denormalize. Huh?
I want to
Normalize denormalizing what's normal.
correct. So
Big
ultimately,
question.
let's stop saying that this is normal and this is abnormal. And remember, I said that, like, even in clinical context, when they use abnormal in a clinical context, I hate that because what that means is that defines that there is something or a standard or a norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that says that this is what this thing is and this is what's acceptable. And anything that deviates from that is unacceptable. I want us to normalize that abnormal isn't normal, right? That shouldn't be on the books at all. If somebody is doing something that we find alarming or take attention to, let's figure out what that is.
Brittany, you don't get a final thought. I was just
Yes, but that is a great one. You do not have to struggle in silence. You are not alone. There are many resources and many
I
tools
feel
that
like we
can
should
help
play
you
Michael
be able
Jackson
to get
now.
through it. So without that, I'm yielding my time to Doc. Thank y'all.
Guys,
y'all.
today we
He's
talk.
not always so serious. He's fun too.
Oh, DJ. We saw DJ be fun one time. All right, one time he was like, "Woo!" and we was like, "Whoa!" and then he went back to like, "No, back to work now." Guys, once again, if you need help, reach out to the. We gave you several hotlines you can reach out to for help. Reach out to the show. We're here for you. You have a friend in us. You have a real friend in us. We're a listening ear. We have people who can get you connected to who you need to get in touch with. All right, real talk. You have a friend. All right, join us next week for another show, guys. Next week is gonna be even more amazing. We're gonna have fun, and guys, I think we may have a fourth. We went back to D4. All right, guys. So we'll see y'all next week. And you know what we're gonna do? Give us some more show topics. Give us some things you want to talk about. And I promise you, we're gonna get Miss Hayes on real soon. All right, guys. Be blessed. And
I
remember,
ain't sitting next to her.
just when you thought you had life figured out, you realized you had wet team.
No
No
Clue.
clue.
Mwah. Peace.